You're a woman of great power. This power is life force, it's energy, it's creation, pulsing through every single cell of your being. The mechanisms of our female anatomy, through our womb space, through that female anatomy that oozes out exuberance of energy and life force. It's not here for others to take, to have, to be some kind of pedestal and observed, but to bring the awareness of the great love that is at play within all things. And that energy, when that is fully lit, fully ignited through the body, we live in such a different dimension to what is out there. And I just really want to speak on this today because it's coming up in my field more and more and more that mostly women are feeling so unsafe in their bodies. It is like built into the nervous system to be ultra aware and perceptive of what dangers could be out there, just because you're in a female body, right? And just because we're in this body, we have to be careful if we was to go somewhere on our own. Be careful when you're on a dating app and you're going to go on a date with someone. You have to do all these more checks. With guys, they're just like, hey, let's just meet up. I just want to meet up. But that doesn't work like that for a woman. Who am I going to meet up with? I don't know what could happen. We've got to want to make sure that we're going to go somewhere that everyone can see us. And I want to see you first. I want to hear you first. Make sure we've got a bit of detail about you before we meet up, right? That is because women need to safeguard themselves. And they're constantly in that perspective. And if they're not, that's probably because they have been built around such levels of unsafety that has become normal, and they don't actually know the other end of that, right? But we've been taught, sometimes we're on this pedestal of like, ooh, this is safe, that's not safe. This is safe, that's not safe, right? This yo-yo cycle. And so it's like this leaning in and leaning out, wanting to be open, wanting to be expressive in the world. But yet, is it safe enough to express here? Because, you're always on that heightened sense of perception to looking out for those dangers. And, you could be someone who has lived a pretty nice life. You've got nice parents and tried to look out for you. But you're still going to have that heightened sense of, is this safe? Am I safe? Because I'm a woman, right? And that is going back into our ancestry just simply because we have had, and I say simply, it's not simple, it wasn't simple. All of those witch wounds, all of the burnings, the tortures, the persecutions that were really rooted in being women. Women were taken out because of their magic, right? And now we even look at that, if we use the word magic, people kind of think, well, what are you really talking about, this abstract thing? It's not abstract. It is something that is so intrinsically built into all of creation and life. It is how everything is created. Isn't that magical? When you really look at the concept of absolutely everything that you're ever aware of, and how magical that is, and yet people are oblivious to it. It just is. They don't open their mind to really be in the awe and wonder of everything that is here before us. And yet I feel within women, this is an innate sensing and feeling and experience of life. When you have a child, you're creating in real time as the creator. That awe and wonder of that being come to life through you, moving through you. The emotions that move through you are pulsing, are expressive, so deeply beyond what maybe men can actually comprehend, because they can't have that experience that we have through our body in that way. Even our sexuality moves through the body in a very different way. And yet there's a lot of conditioning out there that puts a lot of shame on women for their expression, puts a lot of false perceptions of what that needs to look like and be like. I feel that there's a lot of women out there that get a lot of desperate need to kind of perform and to hold themselves in a certain way, which doesn't allow them to actually experience themselves, actually feel the depth of their sensuality. That depth of sensuality is what actually breaks us free into understanding ourselves as a soul, as a spirit. Because when we are really in tune with that energy, with our pleasure, with our bodies, we're in tune with what moves us through life, through spirit, through form, is coming through our bodies, and it is asking to be met fully with presence, with awareness. It's asking us to stop living through the shame, through the worries, through the concerns, through the numbness. Stop numbing out. Stop numbing out. Stop abandoning your sacred feminine essence and body. The intrinsic nature of your being is asking you to fully express yourself. And yet I understand the limitations on the outside. Wherever you live, there are some levels and degrees, and it takes shape in different forms across the world, of how women are suppressed and conditioned. A lot of people who don't live in the Western world, especially like the UK, may think that, or maybe this goes for the same as like the US as well. I think, for instance, is that we look very liberal and free, but there is almost an illusion upon that, because we might be able to wear what we want to wear, might be able to say what we want to say to some degree, but that kind of will look a certain way. Certain people will start to think that because that woman's dressed like that, then she must think that she must be out for it, she must be wanting it, she must be this and that, putting all these labels upon her. So all that judgment comes in for whatever she does, whether she's trying to dress so much that she covers herself, she's this, she's that. If she's not dressing up in many clothes, that's also got lots of perspectives. It's like what can the woman do to just be a fully woman and be appreciated for the glory and the awe and the wonder that she is, right? That's what I want to start seeing more of in the world, for us to really look and think, wow, that woman, she knows how to carry her energy no matter what she's wearing. Wow, that woman's so empowering. You know, she's just so comfortable in her body. She doesn't feel that she needs to wear all these clothes. Like, she's got her little bikini on, and that's great. How can we just appreciate that and leave it there? Like, not putting our judgment on it, not perceiving that we get to take or do or have something from that person because of how they're expressing themselves. And how can we as women cultivate enough boundaries, enough strength, and enough trust in ourselves that we can also deflect what is coming forward towards us? How can we as a collective of women even change the narrative and the perspective that is coming out and for us and through all these different means? Because ancient ways of how women have been betrayed through the witch wound, the witch huntings, have leached into everything, and it's also transformed into so much, even through religions and social media, of how women need to look and behave. And I think that it's absolutely crushing the spirit of women. It's crushing the spirit of our self-expression and our true energy, and what momentum of life force can actually move through us when we allow ourselves to fully express ourselves, when we create enough safety in our bodies to allow that to come through. Because women have been programmed to have a heightened sense of a nervous system that is constantly on the lookout for the predator. There is not a level of safety anymore for women when it comes to doing most things. You know, if you was to go to a party on your own, go clubbing on your own, even just going to the supermarket or the pub on your own, you are at risk. And there is always a risk factor in the subconscious of whether something could or someone could approach you in the wrong way. There is that most definitely now more than ever, where we've got the internet dating. Women are constantly feeling this fear of, am I safe, going to meet this person? Are they going to even be safe down the line? There's all this social media, and there's a big uproar at the minute with that TV show, Love is Blind, and how the men have been treating the women on there. And we need to remember that, not all men are really like that. Not all women are like that. And that these programs and these TV shows and these social media things are purposely curating this dynamic. It's like they're literally probably hunting out all these narcissists and predators and men who haven't grown emotional maturity, for instance, into these spaces. They've obviously sought out all these women. What's the other one? Love Island. They've purposely picked through all these people that have had all this, facial and body work done. So, all these young girls that watch these shows are gonna be looking at this and thinking, oh, I need to look like that. I'm not gonna get a guy if I don't contort myself into this particular way, because they're all being judged constantly on the show, and they're not even, there's nothing wrong with them, and it's just crazy. So how are other people going to feel? And this is really crushing to the self-esteem, and I'm sure this happens for men as well, watching these programs and the standards and expectations they think they have to have. And so we're perpetually creating this narrative of, creating this particular way that we all need to look and be and perform. There's also this way of needing to create certain behaviors and mannerisms towards one another. And yet, really what is needed is initiation into womanhood, into manhood, into emotional maturity. Like, these are the things that need to be developed. And a lot of the time, how we can do that is by looking at, our inner children. If we haven't had the initiation growing up, we can look at that by working with those parts of us and starting to bring them back on board into where we need to be right now, to clearing our subconscious mind of all these programs and detaching ourselves from what is not serving us in the outside reality. Like, these narratives that are being created, how can we clear them for ourselves and also others? How can we stand up in a circle together and collectively say, hey, we want to make the change, so that we can start to drive ourselves back into the frequency and the vibration, the remembrance of our divine, unique expression, of our unique, loving essence and presence, so that we can live from that space. And yet then all of this stuff that we think about our bodies and feel about our bodies becomes obsolete. Okay, I think I shared this in a few other videos beyond. I was having this, I can't even remember if I had, but I'm going to bring it in again because it's coming to mind. I had this very, very profound meditation, and I was seeing myself, and I was seeing where I saw myself, the body more predominantly, saw the body, and all these thoughts that had been projected onto the body, and how that was limiting me from really truly living from this divine soul self. And the soul self was, and I saw it as a beautiful thing, right? Because it was like, oh, this is also very beautiful initiation, because it's reminding me, oh wow, I actually, if I can move beyond these perspectives, that is where I come into my wholeness and totality. And I've had to go through that process to break through this false illusion of the body, remembering my divinity and soul that is beyond the body, and yet it is holding the body, it is trying to come into the body, and yet the body, because these belief systems, we're not allowing the body to fully express and experience that essence and be animated fully by the soul, fully by our essence. And coming back to the women, our womb space, our energy center, our sacred feminine energy center is also, because it is like a cauldron, it is a portal as well, it is carrying all of this subconscious patterning. It is contracting and is holding that into the whole body. It's contracting through the body. We see with a lot of women, I see it through my mentorships and things, women that feel very subconscious in their sensuality, in their female anatomy, because they've had boundaries crossed. They will sometimes hold their chest in like this, right? Because they're trying to hide their breasts, keep themselves small, having very high pitched voices, right? Very small, dainty, childlike voice. Because this is, again, trying to keep the self small, trying to keep the self like a little girl, right? I used to do this, and I catch myself if occasionally it pops out, right? But especially with my dad more than anyone, and I used to do this also with probably grandparents and people like that I would start talking very childlike, very innocent. And I thought, this is when I started to do this work, I was like, okay, that's got to change. And I started to feel it. I felt that little girl be there, and she was just being almost protective, because if I was this sweet little girl, how could they attack me and judge me? I mean, but really what was happening was I was being more judged and experiencing conflict, let's say, with certain family members, because they felt that they could be the big person to crush me and pull me down, and I was already kind of small and on the ground anyway, to make sure that they felt good. It was all about really protecting their ego. So I had to remind myself, stand tall, let that chest be open, let that vocal cord be nice and strong and deep and empowered in my body. That sound can then come from the womb, right? And I know I'm probably not sounding great today because I've been recovering actually from a viral cough, but I'm just still want to be here and share this message. But the womb space, the depth of that womb, that's what's coming up through the body. That's what's coming up through the voice. They're all connected. And when we cut ourselves off from that part because it doesn't feel safe to feel it, right? We live up here. We're not feeling down into that womb space, into the sacral, even the solar plexus, that's your power center, your power energy. Bringing that up, that speaking through your heart, so they're all in resonance with one another, right? And then you begin to actually feel a lot safer in yourself, because you can talk for yourself. You don't need to let them kind of talk at you and disempower you, because you've got you as that grown adult who is protecting, all those little parts that were talking before, because they were feeling a little bit weak, and that's how they interacted with them. We hadn't grown up with that adult, because that adult hadn't also let you grow up, potentially. People in society, some people do this at work, even in their work environment, will talk when they've got bosses. I might talk a little bit more quietly and softer, and hide their true selves around their bosses, because again, it's another form of hierarchy, just like they were taught as a child to not be empowered around those adults. It could happen at school, with school teachers. I noticed this even when in my dynamics, when I started to learn Tao Tantra and other counseling, healing type practices, that there were these times where certain teachers I would sort of feel like, oh, I can't just speak up and with them on their same level because they're my teacher. And I had to remember, no, they want me that. They were obviously more conscious and aware, and I could feel that even from them, and they were trying to bring that forward out of me. And and I brought that out of me now, and I feel that is what is more present than the little girl, right? But when she comes, when I feel her wounding, then that's my time to support her, right? And so we can do that by clearing that way through the womb space, clearing that programming, clearing in the burdens. Okay, again, in that root chakra is the root of where our ancestry comes from. So if you are connecting in even through your mother's line and through your father's line, there can be the witch wound, the ancestral trauma of where you're being depleted of your sacred sexuality through religion, through different cultural beliefs, through society and how they perceive women on both lines. So it's really good to go through those and see what is there and clearing that space so you can become a clear channel for your unique soul essence to anchor that in right deep within your womb space, right? Because then that is your creative portal. You're creating that energy when you're whatever you're creating, like, okay, whether that's a child, whether that's physical projects and things in your life, whether that's just creating your life, right? So when you are wanting to talk with people, act out into the world, who you're being, how you're being, right? You want to be your most authentic self. You don't want to be acting from those wounds. You don't want to be acting, and I'm saying the word acting here purposefully, because sometimes we are acting out certain roles, right? And these could be the past life roles. They could be ancestral roles, conditioned roles through our childhood, and they are conditioning us to create dynamics. So we'll have certain friendship groups that maybe aren't serving us. We'll have certain relationships that aren't serving us. We will work in certain dynamics and places, live in certain places that resonate at that frequency. So we want to keep on clearing the way so that our soul can come through, and that is what can then start to create, so we can start to resonate with the right people and places and experiences. Okay, and I start to notice that, like, the more I step into that power, like, I've got such a great friendship group now. I meet so many amazing women who are on the womb path, who are on the galactic cosmic self-expression routes, who are connected to the earth and love working with the earth grids. I have so many friends like that now, and there was a period of time when I didn't have that. And it was very, very painful. Yeah. Same with relationships. I really don't allow someone into my life unless they meet me where I can be met. I want deep conversations. I want to be held and seen in my highest light, and I want to be able to meet someone else there. I don't want to have to be trying to lower my frequency to make them feel comfortable. And I don't want to also feel like, I've also had people who can be spiritually egoed, and that can be very unhealthy dynamic because they want to teach you and kind of mollycoddle you in the spirituality realms, but not really seeing you, not fully being able to meet you because it's more powerful for them to be the powerful one in that dynamic. So you've got to really be able to stand in your own power so that you can be met from that place and not met from either here or really down here, or kind of a false sense of here, but really they just want to kind of control you. And if you're people pleasing, if you're abandoning yourself to please others because you want that love, you're still seeking love outside of yourself, it's going to keep repeating that pattern. So we need to clear that and center ourselves and come into our true authentic self. And clearing it isn't necessarily mean like big, dark, deep shadow work all the time. Sometimes it's just about really listening and fine-tuning into your frequency, into yourself, so you can feel what feels right and what doesn't feel right, when it feels like it's coming from someone else, and when it's coming from yourself, and what parts of it is it coming from yourself, right? So we have to get sometimes very like focused and really tuning in, and it might feel a bit overwhelming at first because you're just constantly sensing and thinking and trying to feel and understand everything, but it becomes more innate and becomes more natural and succinct as time goes on. And we're not here to rush it, we're not really here to push it and be over analytical. We're here to listen in, to actually drop more into presence in the now. And we do that through, again, the body is the guide. It is the guide. So if you've enjoyed this, like, I'd love you to take part in the yoni ritual that I've put down below. It's an audio and it's an amazing guide. I love the practice. I do this quite often and it really helps me to get into my body, and most importantly connect me to my sacred feminine anatomy in a way that is sacred, that is true, and that is aligned to my soul essence. So yeah, take a part in that, and I'd love to hear in the comments what lands for you and where you're at on your womb journey.